The idea of cities of migration came to me. I was in Birmingham one day, actually, looking at some innovative recreational programming that the city of Birmingham had done along with NGOs. And I was standing on the road trying to get on the other side, and it struck me that what I had seen at a local recreation center could provide great ground for discussion, possibly replication, amendment in a city recreation center in Toronto. And then I started to think a little further, and migration is primarily an urban phenomenon. Most migrants, most immigrants want to settle in cities. And notwithstanding national policies and national frameworks on immigration, we've at Maytree always believed very firmly that integration is a very local experience. It's a very practical experience, and that in fact things on the street in Toronto, in Paris, in Amsterdam, in Los Angeles are very far removed from the national policies, national media, national sentiment, sometimes national hysteria, because the business of day-to-day living supersedes many of those other discussions. And I started to think there must be a place where cities can learn from each other about what Paris is doing, what Amsterdam is doing, what Toronto is doing. And we started to research whether in fact such an international network existed, whether it was dedicated to documenting good practice. And we quickly found out that whilst there were pockets of the idea, most of the networks were either dedicated to research and policy, such as Metropolis, or they were regional in nature, so primarily within the EU and places like that. And given the fact that Canadian cities have such a strong interest in making my immigration and integration work, it seemed to us that it was in the service of this country, Canada, and in the service of Canadian cities that it behoves us to look outside our borders. Canada is universally envied around the world for its success in immigration, its success in multiculturalism. But there are lots of things on the ground that in fact don't work so well and could work better. And we could, if we only set out to capture the stories, and I guess that's something else that's different about cities of migration. It's not an academic, scientific project. It's a very nimble, very intuitive approach that finds good ideas, describes them in a compelling way, and then very aggressively disseminates them across the world. In my travels on this project to different cities of the world, I've been impressed with what Toronto could learn. I've also been impressed with what Toronto could share. But if we used cycling, let's say, the way cycling is used in Copenhagen, not just as a mode of transportation, but as a very practical way of providing integration services to immigrants, we'd be many steps ahead. Dublin allows non-citizens to vote in local elections. We're still having the debate here. So there's lots of back and forth that we could engage in. And I think this exchange of ideas generates a community of learning, which generates a community of discussion, which hopefully results in ideas traveling. And certainly in the last 2 years, we've seen some of these good ideas that we've captured. We've seen them actually travel from city to city, and that is very encouraging. But ultimately, our objective is to build this international community of integration practitioners, whether they are local government or NGOs, whether they are members of the labor union or members of the business improvement associations. There's lots in the local context that links you. Maytree is a very small private foundation, so when we decided to do something international, we needed to do two things. It's very different for Maytree to reach out to potential partners in Canada. We have our community of foundations, we have our community of NGOs. We're somewhat known in the context. But when you want to talk to London or Paris or Malmo or Berlin, you need other networks. So we needed to find other organizations that would help us not only gain some credibility, but also give us some legs on the ground. And it's very natural for us to look for partners who are other foundations, because we think and work alike. We didn't really want to go to, we didn't want to become an EU type network, which has to be accountable for in a different way to different people. So we were very fortunate. We found a number of private foundations located in all parts of the globe who are interested in working with us, and together it really is a very close partnership project between the Berwick Cadbury Trust, Bertelsmann, Germany Bertelsmann, Madrid, and the Tyndall Foundation in New Zealand. We hope in time more private foundations will come along, because part of learning is generating the conversation, generating the contacts, and part of the conversation must be face-to-face. So this conference in The Hague is an opportunity for us to give good ideas very long legs. Well, ultimately, we'd like to be able to follow good ideas that travel. So, for example, there are a number of good ideas that are traveling from Toronto to New Zealand. There is an idea that is going from Los Angeles to, I believe, a part of London. And we are central in all of this because we connect, we are the connectors. So we want to be able to follow which ideas travel, if not in their, original configuration, possibly in an adapted configuration. And that would be okay with us. So that's one indicator. The other indicator, I think, is building this very vibrant community of learners. If we are able to build an audience, which is not only municipal government and NGOs, but also includes small and large businesses, because business is such a large part of integration. If we are able to include academics, academic institutions, urban planners, even faith groups, the bigger, the more diverse the group, the better we will know we've been successful. Ultimately, we'd like to sort of sit back after we've reached 100 ideas or so. We'd like to be able to sit back and reflect. What have we learned? What do these stories tell us about limitations of national policies? What do they tell us about limitations of local action? What do they tell us about collaboration, cooperation? What do they tell us about leadership and all those things? Cities of Migration is unique from other similar types of initiatives, and certainly in time we are finding that we have lots of company in this field. There are lots of regional and national and international networks that are somehow talking and thinking about this. What's different about us is that we're international. What's different about us is our approach. We're not a database of ideas. We are a compelling storyteller. And through the telling of the stories, using multimedia, we are able to transmit, I believe, more powerfully the essence of the idea. And when you write about, the city of Cardiff has a pretty unique English language training prep program for refugees, and the police are involved. Well, that's an idea. But when you actually say that the city of Cardiff uses its police force to teach English, is in the classroom with refugees who previously had no trust of the police, and now as a result of this rather engineered relationship between the police who is teaching English and the claimants and the migrants who don't know English, we have got a community of trust being built. How much more powerful is that? So I think that's the second unique feature of our project. The third unique feature of our project is we're not satisfied with, finding the good ideas and talking about them. We actually convene around them. We have discussions about them. We organize webinars. There's back and forth. So there are little hubs built around almost every idea that we are managing. This is all naturally done on the web or on telephone lines, but it happens. I would also say that unlike other projects, our ideas, we find them with a nose for good ideas. I think of ourselves as, and people who work with us, they have to have a good sense of what is a good idea. But we're not academic. We don't have criteria and templates. We don't have a jury. We have no academic heavyweights attached to us, and I think that helps us stay nimble and almost like detectives. Nothing gets us more excited than when we learn about something out of the ordinary, like we found this fascinating idea in Los Angeles where Latino women are learning English through watching soap operas. And I watch the soap operas. Once you get hooked on those, you're not going to let go, because you want to know if the hairdresser marries or has an affair with the hunk who's cleaning the yard, or whatever it is. I forget. But it's a lot of fun, and how easy it is to tell that story and take it to another place. We're unabashedly optimistic. We don't. The project does not describe all the shades of a question around migration, and there are certainly complexities. We're unabashedly optimistic, and we tell the stories of success. We're optimistic about the fact that if integration is done well, everybody prospers. We won't get into the political nuances of a local problem, and certainly I accept the fact that there are many. But I'm encouraged by the fact that notwithstanding these political nuances in some very conflicted contexts, right next to that context, something fabulous will be happening, and we tell that story as opposed to the other. I think they should come to the conference in The Hague, because they will be able to touch and feel many of the good ideas. There are going to be very vibrant discussions on the role of the media, but most the role of the media, the role of elected leaders. They're going to hear from mayors. There's going to be a fabulous closing speech by a former prime minister. There's going to be an opening speech by an urban guru. And we're trying to bring all these links together, but most importantly, they should come because they'll meet other people who they want to know and stay connected with.